Hi, my name is Frank Guerrero. I'm a nurse practitioner of vascular surgery from Flinders Medical Centre in South Australia. I've been kindly asked by my friend and colleague Gary Bean, the wound guy, to speak to you about a metaphor I use when teaching people about the key cells in the inflammatory response and how they impact a wound healing. A building site is a great common use metaphor for wound healing, as it is typically involves an area that is busy with activity and has an end goal of a nice looking completed building, or in the case of a wound, healed tissue and new skin. Like this building site that you see here, wounds start as a messy area filled with cell debris post being damaged. Now this damage is much like a freshly knocked over building, with crumpled bits of cells and proteins scattered throughout the wound bed, much like bricks and building debris. Coupled with this are often damaged blood vessels and lymphatic vessels like ripped up pipes or damaged leaking pipes, and they in turn bring in the first responders, neutrophils. These guys act like scouts and in a way like building site managers who take out bacteria and also send out messages to the rest of the body's immune system to coordinate a cleanup of the building site, to bring in new cells, releasing text messages to bring in new cells, new types of cells to get the job done. Accompanying these neutrophils are macrophages, and they're like a demolition crew or a cleanup crew, and they clean up the damaged building area, which are cells, and crush any random bacteria that may be floating around the site as well. Once clean, the neutrophils then signal the next phase, the laying of foundation and the placement of scaffold, bringing in fibroblasts. Now, these are my all-time favourite cells, as they're the heavy lifters, or tradies, as we call them in Australia, who do the heavy lifting of wound healing, placing collagen to scaffold the building site for new walls, windows, and eventually the roof to be built, so your wound to be healed. Finally, access to the building site is governed by an enzyme family known as proteases, and these act like security guards for the building site and govern which type of cells can come in and out of the site. So some common names for proteases that you might be familiar with are matrix metalloproteases. So what happens when this process is compromised by a chronic health condition such as venous insufficiency or diabetes? Well, typically, you see things stall in the inflammatory phase, meaning that the governance of the building site goes a bit haywire. So rather than the lovely orderly process I've just described, the site managers, remember the neutrophils, overstay their welcome, and they release mixed messages. They release signals that in turn make the security guards, the proteases go haywire, and they outstay their welcome as well. So if you can imagine a building site where access is no longer orderly, you have tradies building walls whilst the demolition team is still active in the site, and so there's like walls being built and then being knocked down at all sorts of random times. And there are active resources that are being brought in, but they're being scattered about the building site in a random fashion as well. You can imagine that that would not be good for getting the building finished in a timely fashion. And this is exactly what is going on with chronic wound healing, and why it's so important to fix the root cause, or as we say, underlying etiology, to ensure that the building site gets back on track to being finished and healed.